When it comes to AI, is DeepSeek's breakthrough a Sputnik moment for Washington?
I think time will tell on that. I'm not sure. I think that the critical factor is that America develops its own chip manufacturing here. We don't rely on Taiwan Semiconductor. We don't rely on others in this world marketplace. We certainly could be behind. We recognized a few years ago that we needed to incentivize chip manufacturing in the U.S. We passed the CHIPS Act in Congress. It has been a failure. Throwing a lot of money at a lot of different companies has not worked. I think that Donald Trump's policies involving, a combination of tax incentives and perhaps tariffs will be more effective in trying to raise America's productivity in this area.
Congressman, you brought up the CHIPS Act and your misgivings and concerns there. How should the president adjust maybe the implementation of this law and maybe the doling out of some of the money that still remains in a way that could meet the challenge that companies like DeepSeek are posing from abroad?
Well, one of the biggest benefactors of the CHIPS Act has been the Taiwan Semiconductor, and that's a mistake. They are not producing chips in the U.S. They have a plan to produce some in the future. We don't know if those will be the high-end chips or not. We don't know if Taiwan Semiconductor will actually mesh with the workforce here in the U.S. And so I think what we've got to do, and what President Trump, I'm sure his advisors are telling him right now, is find those companies in the U.S. that can produce the high-end chips that Taiwan Semiconductor has a monopoly on. Look into the monopoly. First of all, we certainly have antitrust laws in this country that prohibit a company from having a 95% market share like Taiwan Semiconductor does. But find the U.S. companies and make sure that we have the tax structure in place and other incentives to make high-end chips in the U.S. This whole issue of DeepSeek, we don't know exactly whether someone violated our export controls to China or not.
I'm looking at Nvidia, down almost 17%, massive wipeout of market capitalization by $600 billion, Congressman. But to that point, did perhaps China circumvent some of the limitations on Nvidia's exports? Is that something you're thinking through, rather than perhaps this was innovation because they couldn't get their hands on the latest and greatest?
Well, this wouldn't be the first time that China stole technology from the U.S. or other countries, and then with their labor market and with their other production advantages, got ahead of the curve on us. And so I think that's certainly one of the issues that we've got to look at, is whether they did violate export controls or not. But more importantly, what do we do in this country? That cat is out of the bag right now. What do we do in this country to make sure, and Western Europe, frankly, to make sure that we stay ahead of the AI race?
But the answer thus far has been money. $500 billion unveiled by potentially Oracle, OpenAI, and SoftBank into the future for AI infrastructure in the United States. The creation of more $3 trillion companies. But ultimately, that amount of money perhaps has slowed innovation here in the U.S. Would that be a concern?
I think it's a big concern. Again, I don't think we just throw money at an issue. I think we've got to be very precise in our strategy and how we develop AI. We all recognize AI has these tremendous potential, wonderful benefits, positive benefits. But when you're talking about a totalitarian country like China, you've also got to think about what that country can do with AI advances that will put us at risk and our allies at risk.